Welcome everybody to the 2021 Temperature. What's your company's purpose? I'm Valerie Jennings, CEO and founder of Jennings Social Media Martech. I'm really excited to review this topic with you. It's very applicable to our lives today, to what our businesses are experiencing. There's some great tactics, takeaways, examples of brands doing this well, as well as some disruptors and some things to look out for. So hopefully, regardless of where you're at in the process of defining purpose or embracing purpose, you will get something out of this presentation and have some immediate follow-ups that you can do. So what is driving purpose? Purpose has always been important, but it's more important today than ever before. And a lot of this is being driven by the pandemic and other social changes going on in our country and around the world. So 66% of consumers across 20 plus countries agree it's important for brands to be committed to making our society better. So a big shift in this being a priority across consumers in our country and globally. And so we're going to take a look at what is driving the brand purpose, tactics to build trust, and big disruptors. So some obvious disruptions that have occurred in the last year and so, impacts of COVID, social movements, and privacy being one of the top indicators of consumers wanting change with brands, with their technology, and with their social media. So purpose, brands that know why they exist and who they're built to serve are uniquely positioned to navigate unprecedented change. So the brands that had this figured out before we went into the pandemic were positioned for success. Conversely, more than 25% of those who noticed brands acting in their own self-interest walked away from those brands. So some real strong opinions and behaviors have come out of the pandemic, as well as some of the social changes. When an enterprise clearly puts its why at the center of its operations, purpose is amplified and extended within and outside the enterprise. Purpose-driven companies inherently understand why they exist and who they are best built to serve, regardless of what they sell today. So when more than 70% agreed, they value digital solutions that deepen their connection with other people. And 63% believe they will rely on digital technologies more than they did prior to the pandemic. So lots of good takeaways here. Lots of statistics, lots of reasons why purpose has come back to the center of the conversation. Here is a study that came out last year. This study actually comes out every year, but this study was slightly different last year because of COVID. And it looked at the top 100 global brands. And during the pandemic, these top 100 global brands succeeded, their profits increased, and the value of their perceived value of their business has also increased. There were 12 action points that all businesses today can take away from the success of these top 100 brands. Some of the things that they had in common: be creative, spread optimism, form and serve communities, leverage legacy, have a purpose, do a checkup, show humility, take a moonshot, take a stand, keep it fresh, respect boundaries, add friction. Additionally, social movements made a huge impact in brand positioning and purpose. Gender, race, identification were among the top three. Here is a wonderful example of a company that embraced a campaign, Identify As We Are. This was Sephora's campaign that they decided to do during Pride Month to celebrate non-binary and gender fluid people with a beautiful message and a video that they rolled out. So this campaign looked at some of the changes that have occurred over the last year and leading up to the last year. And they created a new campaign and debuted a new manifesto. All US stores closed for an hour on the 5th of June for a day of diversity training. There is a video that you can come back and watch. It is amazing. It's a beautiful illustration of how they embraced their purpose and how they made it part of their community. So another area is privacy. And if you didn't have a chance to watch The Social Dilemma, the documentary, I highly recommend it. So some takeaways from the documentary: we are users. Fake news is everywhere. We get dopamine from our apps. We are an experiment. As a result of this documentary and other big breaking news about privacy issues and concerns, the result is, with consumers, data ethics will be more important than ever. Many people deleted Facebook and Instagram or took a break from their accounts. Privacy protection will need to be continuous and holistic. Personal circumstances will continue to drive professional changes. Employee monitoring will become a bigger trend. Data privacy law enforcement will return to a more punitive attitude. Data protection regulations around the world will increase. Data privacy transparency will be a top priority for consumers. Here are some examples of brands with purpose and some of the things that they did. Microsoft. So they actually regained the #3 position ahead of Google due to the growth of its cloud-enabled workplace ecosystem that incorporates Office 365 and Microsoft Teams, allowing people to maintain business as usual during the lockdown. Lululemon, they found new and creative ways to engage with consumers, build trust, and create a level of intimacy, particularly within health and wellness. They shifted their focus from yoga-inspired wear to work appropriate clothing and offering online classes for people at home. And MasterCard, it became the first time in the top 10 due to strong financial performance, growing brand equity, especially in engaging consumers, successfully fitting into the ecosystem of their everyday lives, and gaining a close emotional connection through its purposeful positioning. 3 strong examples of big pivots, a transition back to simplicity, to understanding the ecosystem, to understanding the emotions of their consumers. So how do we build trust? Here are some tactics: buyer personas, influencer collaborations, connections through content, transparency. So during and because of the pandemic, buyer personas changed immensely. And I think most businesses have a pretty good handle on personas, but there were new personas that evolved because of the pandemic, especially in the online shopping space. Older purchasers who were more accustomed to going to the store started shopping online. There were also big divisions among luxury brands and everyday consumer brands. Some industries experience a lot of changes. For example, we saw personally at the agency, we saw our luxury clients actually having the best year ever, while we heard about other industries that were really struggling. So there were lots of big changes, lots of disruptions in buyer personas. Our buyer personas probably look tremendously different today than what they looked like before the pandemic. But here are some things to take note of. People want to feel less anxious. People are seeking more balanced, healthy lifestyle. They want to feel more connected. They're seeking out kindness and purpose. They are more mindful of their spending, reflecting on what is essential and what is frivolous. So thinking about how maybe your former personas line up with some of these new drivers, and then looking at some of these statistics. 51% of consumers believe that less than half of brands create content that resonates as authentic. 92% of marketers believe most of all of the content the brand creates resonates as authentic with consumers. Here's some additional takeaways from the 2020 Facebook holiday package. So an average of 72% of Gen X and 50% of boomers say they're spending more time on mobile during the COVID-19 outbreak. 85% of people are shopping online, averaging over 80% of Gen X and boomers. Gen X and boomers who shop online on average 44% and 30% respectively said they are spending more time shopping online. 1 in 3 shoppers plan to spend less time in stores after the pandemic is over. So e-commerce is here to stay. Brands that were positioned for online shopping before the pandemic, again, were set up for success, and those were trying to scramble to catch up with the big change. The influencer marketing space also grew tremendously, just kind of looking at where it was in 2016. So from 1.7 billion in 2016, and now in 2021, it's expected to reach 13.8 billion. So a big jump there. 90% of survey respondents believe influencer marketing to be an effective form of marketing. 38.5% of brands view influencer marketing success based on conversions and sales. The percentage of brands using TikTok for influencer marketing continues to increase. TikTok now comes in second place for the most important social media platform for influencer marketing. Micro influencers are definitely being touted for having better engagement rates than the mega influencers. Micro influencers are smaller influencers with 100,000 or less in followers, but their communities seem to be more niche and tend to be more authentic. Micro influencers on Instagram boast an average engagement rate of 3.86%. This declines for every level of influencer before hitting the 1.21 for mega influencers. Businesses are making about $5.20 for every dollar spent on influencer marketing. So this space obviously has been flooded, and because of the uptick, because of people finding that there is a lot of value, sometimes more value working with influencers and running ads. People listen to the micro influencers. And so finding a sweet spot and finding influencers that convert for you are really important and will continue to be important as we see this industry continue to grow. So connections through content, purpose-driven and relatable comprehensive campaigns. We look at videos, user-generated content, messaging, and storytelling. Here is an example of Pedigree's campaign to spread happiness. So some background on this. According to the World Health Organization, 5.8% of Brazilians suffer from depression, but dogs can help their owners retrieve lost happiness. So that's something Pedigree knows and decided to spread the word with its new campaign, Brings It Back, a beautiful animated short. The campaign also included a line of fetch toys with words love, happiness, life, and hope. And they sent this out to influencers and people who had recently been through difficult times. So the sentimental Brings It Back aims to raise awareness on the benefits of owning a dog and encourage adoption with a clever and touching way. So kind of like looking back at the other campaigns we highlighted, we're really not just talking about connecting with people, but the simplicity of emotions and happiness and positivity and inspiration. There's also a video in here so you guys can take a look at that campaign on YouTube. So let's talk about transparency. Build trust through transparency. First impression, website content. Consistency is key. Share reasoning. Be open and receptive to feedback. Communicate openly, spread the word, recognize limits. Here is another great example of a brand, Patagonia. Providing transparency throughout its unique supply chain means reducing any negative social and environmental impacts. So they took a proactive approach, taking the responsibility on itself and making sure no harm is being caused in the making of its products. It talks about the footprint chronicles and it's displayed on the general public through videos about the company. So a customer clicks on an item on the Patagonia website And that customer has access to a series of footprint chronicles. The videos directly relate to that product. So it's basically showing them that for the products they buy, what their environmental footprint is going to be each step in the supply chain, including all textile mills and sewing factories. Big disruptors. So throughout the past year and so, social media platforms, e-commerce, TikTok, and Clubhouse have been real big drivers of some disruptors in the digital marketing and advertising space. So Facebook changed some stuff, Instagram changed some stuff with the algorithm, with priorities. So Facebook looking at prioritizing friends and family over businesses. They look at people you engage with and prioritize number of length of comments. Instagram is looking at interest, relationship, timeliness, frequency, following usage. So almost every social media platform went through some sort of an algorithm update. If it wasn't for the algorithm itself, or hashtags, or frequency and timing, or just engagements, they all shifted their focus in the past year. The benchmarks, so benchmarks are huge, right? We talk about post in engagement benchmarks and likes and comments and shares, video views. It also, looks at channel growth. And so all of these benchmarks, if you look at year over year, we can see that the engagement rates were flat on Facebook and Twitter and down on Instagram. Posting frequency continues to go down. Carousels are king on Instagram. Diversifying hashtags between channels is key. And COVID was less of a player than you might think. No industry was immune to the effects of COVID, but it didn't lead to the disastrous decline in social media or any industry in particular. So we're seeing these algorithm shifts, and yet we're also seeing a change in behavior with content and postings and engagement rates. So e-commerce was the big winner, obviously. E-commerce has surpassed levels not expected until 2025 due to the pandemic. They're expected to bring in over $843 billion in sales this year. Paid search revenue was way up year over year at the height of the pandemic. 76% of shoppers say that convenience is priority number one in choosing a retailer. On top of that, 81% of shoppers want frictionless cross-device e-commerce experiences. 76% of Instagram users have made an impulse buy on social media simply due to ease of purchase. And I have to admit, I am one of those people. 48% of grocery shoppers follow brand products on social media. So some important e-commerce takeaways there. Then we saw some new players and strengthening of new players like TikTok and the rollout of Clubhouse and picking up popularity. So these two are worth keeping an eye on. If you're not on TikTok, start planning ahead for TikTok, build out a strategy on TikTok. If it makes sense for your business, Clubhouse, I think, is going to be huge, although now we see almost every social media platform on the planet adding an audio type feature. So it will be interesting to see how Clubhouse shakes out with all of these new optimizations happening across platforms. So why are these two we're taking a look at? Far easier to edit and upload content than other apps, very niche. They use advanced AI algorithms, exclusivity. People feel like simply joining the app is entering an exclusive club. That's on the Clubhouse side. Authenticity and connection, and what's old is new. Popular in part because it's so easy to use. Users can get value from it as soon as they're invited without a learning curve. So keep it authentic and your brand will be successful. Sometimes easier said than done. I mean, you really have to study both of these platforms and understand how people are using them and what's resonating with people before you jump in. And I remember when big brands were entering the social media space, and one of the first things that they did was pause and listen. And they all put listening tools in place so they could listen and understand how consumers were interacting with social media. We're kind of seeing that same thing happen with TikTok and Clubhouse. But an example, Chipotle had its annual offer for Halloween, offering food at reduced price for customers who ordered in a spooky outfit. The challenge involved users posting a video showcasing their before and after Halloween costumes. They had a hashtag. They garnered an astonishing 3.6 billion views. So you want, and then for Clubhouse, some things to keep in mind. You want your product to be novel, simple to use. You want to create an exclusive experience that makes users feel they're in a special group and a sense of authenticity. So if you've listened to any of the Clubhouse groups, they're all very authentic conversations. And I've listened to venture capitalists giving advice to college students, and it's amazing that we have that kind of access today. And think about the knowledge sharing that is happening on that platform as we're closing the gap in getting early entrepreneurs connected with successful entrepreneurs and VCs and people who have been through some of the trials and tribulations of running and owning businesses. So amazing things to keep an eye on those too. Key takeaways. Obviously, this is, if you haven't defined your purpose, do it now. And do it. I don't care if you get it done this week or next week, but this needs to be the core of your messaging, and you need to broadcast it. And we went through this exercise last year with some of our clients, and we kind of stopped some of the discussions about content and said, hey, we want to take a step back and we want to talk about your purpose and what you're doing for social good. Because I bet you, if you asked your clients or if you went and talked to the C-suite at your organization, you will find that people are doing a lot of good, but it might not be a comprehensive approach, or it might be scattered and it just needs to be redefined. And the other thing that I noticed is clients did have really strong feelings about their purpose and what they really connected with, but it just wasn't being incorporated into content and talking about big social drivers and why they were passionate about that. And maybe they even use sustainable products and services, but for whatever reason, those were happening in the background instead of front and center. So really working to strengthen this message or redefine it, and then broadcasting it. Like, it needs to be front and center on the website. It needs to be part of the messaging and the content. It needs to be communicated to employees and people across teams. So it is one of, I don't want to say it's simplistic, because it's a decision that everybody has to come together and make. But it is taking a step back and evaluating simplicity again, and really deciding what is in the best interest of society. What are we doing here that's driving change or empowering people or being inspiring? And then making sure that that's leading our content and some of our messaging, versus just trying to sell. And that's just not what consumers want right now. Audit your authenticity, messaging, and content distribution. So way back in the deck, we looked at a statistic where we saw a gap between consumers' opinions about authentic content and what marketers think they're doing. And I think this is a disconnect in understanding the persona or the ecosystems. And I think some of this can be accomplished with listening tools, where we can really see what consumers are saying. Also think that this can be done by doing an audit on personas and looking at buyers and looking at buyers before the pandemic and then looking at the pandemic buyers and really kind of also overlaying the messaging about what buyers are looking for today from brands. So you might have to test some things out, but again, the more authentic, the better. I looked at some top performing styles of Facebook posts the other day, and long form Facebook posts are coming back, but they're personal narratives, personal stories that are authentic. And I think that sprinkling in some of that content is really important. So audit your authenticity. Follow that 80-20 rule. 80% of your content should be informative, inspiring, purposeful, and only 20% should be talking about selling. And look at the opportunities for messaging. Dig out that editorial calendar and really study. Well, okay, we've been talking about this product and this service, and we have this employee spotlight scheduled, but where's the purpose-driven messaging? Do an audit, figure out what the business is doing to spread positivity or embrace change, or focus on sustainability, or focus on education. So look at that messaging, make sure it's balanced, make sure that purpose is reintegrated back into your messaging, and then look at your content distribution. Are you missing some big opportunities on TikTok or Clubhouse or YouTube? YouTube didn't come out much in this deck, but it is still the second largest search engine. And it is a tremendous force to be reckoned with. So maybe looking at video and YouTube and how you can cross promote your video content. Video is a big driver of a lot of these algorithm changes, especially on Facebook. And so trying to come up with a video strategy that you can cross promote on some of these other channels, and then see if your brand is positioned for TikTok or Clubhouse, and put at least some sort of a brief or strategy in place about what that might look like, and kind of a mock-up of what the content would look like. So it's a good time to kind of take a step back and do that audit. And the last thing, be a positive force on the planet, add value and embrace change. We are all in a unique position as marketers to help guide clients and the companies that we work for. It's more than just statistics and facts. It's about doing the right thing. And at the end of the day, people want to do the right thing, and they want to be part of a company that is inspiring change. And so we are, the catalyst to create that change in the organization. So never underestimate your power in influencing these positive changes, and never underestimate the influence you have in making the planet a better place. So thanks for watching. Hope you got a lot of great content out of this, and I'm always available for questions. My Twitter handle is on here. I'm also very active on my personal LinkedIn, and always welcome to receive connections and questions and comments about this presentation. So thank you again for joining me today.